Every story we tell is a journey, a thrilling adventure that will keep you hooked from start to finish. Before we begin, let us know where you're watching from. We love seeing our community come together from all around the world. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Tomorrow, we have a special story just for you. Trust us, you won't want to miss it. See you on the next adventure. A celebrity ignored royal rules, and instantly regretted it. The sleek, black Rolls-Royce Phantom glided to a stop in front of Buckingham Palace, its glossy surface reflecting the midday sun. The second the door opened, the crowd erupted into excited murmurs and camera flashes. Olivia Munro, a world-famous pop star, stepped out with the grace of someone used to adoration and privilege. Dressed in an extravagant designer outfit, Olivia barely acknowledged the throngs of fans calling her name. To her, this was just another photo op, another opportunity to remind the world that she was a queen in her own right. Behind her, a small army of assistants, publicists, and personal bodyguards followed closely, ensuring her every step was calculated and controlled. But there was one thing they hadn't accounted for: the unwavering discipline of the royal guards. As they made their way toward the palace, Olivia's eyes locked onto the iconic red-coated, bearskin-hatted guards standing at their posts. To her, they weren't elite soldiers, they were just props for a great photo. "This is perfect," Olivia said, turning to her photographer. "Get me a shot right next to one of them. It'll be iconic." Her assistant hesitated. Miss Munro, we're not allowed to cross the barriers. It's against royal protocol." Olivia let out an exasperated sigh. "Please. Do you know who I am? These rules don't apply to people like me." Without another word, she began walking toward the restricted zone, the area clearly marked with warning signs telling visitors to stay back. The tension in the air shifted. Tourists who had been casually snapping photos paused, sensing that something was about to happen. A few even started recording. As Olivia stepped over the rope barrier, she flashed a cocky smile, completely unaware that she was about to make the biggest mistake of her career. Her bodyguards exchanged uneasy glances but said nothing. After all, Olivia always got what she wanted. But this time, she was about to learn the hard way that not even fame and fortune could break royal discipline. The moment Olivia Munro stepped over the rope barrier, a collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Tourists stood frozen, cameras still raised, unsure if they were about to witness a harmless publicity stunt or a major security breach. But Olivia? She didn't care. She strutted forward confidently, flipping her hair as if she were walking the red carpet. Her assistant whispered a frantic warning, but Olivia simply waved her off. "Relax. It's just for a picture. These guards don't even move." She smirked as she approached the royal guard, towering in his pristine red uniform. He stood motionless, gripping his rifle, eyes locked straight ahead. But despite his stillness, there was something in his presence, a tension, an invisible wall of discipline, that should have been enough to warn her. She didn't heed the warning. Instead, Olivia lifted her phone, angling it for the perfect selfie. But that wasn't enough. "Move a little this way, love, so I can get a better shot," she said mockingly, stepping even closer to the soldier. The tourists gasped again. The royal guard did not move. Olivia huffed impatiently. "Seriously? Nothing?" Then she did something unthinkable. She reached out her hand, toward his face. Her fingers were inches away from touching the edge of his bearskin hat when... bang! The thunderous stomp of a military boot echoed through the courtyard. The ground shook beneath her feet. In a flash, the royal guard pivoted sharply, his rifle snapping into position. Then, in a voice so booming, so commanding, it made the entire crowd jump, he barked, "Stand back!" The force of his voice cut through the air like a blade. Olivia's blood ran cold. She stumbled backward, nearly dropping her phone as the gravity of the situation finally hit her. The crowd was dead silent. Every camera was locked on her. And for the first time in her life, Olivia Munro was not in control. The thunderous stomp of the royal guard's boot still echoed through the courtyard as Olivia Munro stood frozen in shock. Her ears rang from the sheer force of his command. The rifle, once resting at ease, was now firmly gripped, angled slightly forward, a subtle but unmistakable message. She had crossed the line. The crowd held their breath. No one dared to move. A few tourists clutched their chests, startled by the sudden shift in atmosphere. Others, holding their phones, whispered in awe. "Did you see that? He actually moved. Oh, she's in trouble." But Olivia? Her face burned with humiliation. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She had expected the guard to just stand there like a statue, to let her get the shot she wanted, maybe even laugh about it later. Instead, she had been publicly scolded like a reckless child. She glanced back at her bodyguards, expecting them to step in, to do something. But they just stood there, stone-faced. Even they knew there were limits that couldn't be crossed. Olivia's lips pressed into a thin line. She had spent years being adored, praised, and catered to. No one ever told her no. And she wasn't about to let some soldier humiliate her like this. With false bravado, she forced out a nervous laugh. "Oh, come on, it's not that serious, mate." The royal guard did not move. His face remained emotionless, his gaze locked forward. But there was an undeniable weight in his stance, a presence that commanded respect. And then, he spoke again. "You are in a restricted zone. Step back immediately." This time, his voice was even sharper, colder. It wasn't a warning. It was an order. And suddenly, Olivia felt it. That suffocating realization. She wasn't the one in charge here. She wasn't the queen of this moment. She was just a fool who had broken the rules. The cameras were still rolling. The world was watching. And her nightmare was only just beginning. For the first time in her life, Olivia Munro felt powerless. The royal guard's voice still rang in her ears, a command so sharp it had cut straight through her arrogance. The crowd was motionless, eyes locked on her like she was part of a live scandal unfolding in real time. Every phone was recording. Her heart pounded, but she refused to let this moment ruin her image. With a forced smirk, she took a calculated step back, rolling her eyes as if to make it seem like the whole thing was a joke. A diva brushing off an inconvenience. All right. Chill out, man," she muttered under her breath. But the damage was already done. From the corner of her eye, she saw them. Two armed officers in black uniforms breaking through the crowd, moving directly toward her. Olivia's stomach twisted. Her bodyguards noticed too, but none of them moved. They knew better than to get in the way of Buckingham Palace security. The taller officer, face blank but authoritative, stopped just feet away from her. His voice was low, professional, but unmistakably final. "Ms. Munro, You have violated Buckingham Palace security regulations. You need to leave the premises immediately." The words hit harder than she expected. For the first time, panic flickered across her face. "Wait, what? I was just taking a photo. This is ridiculous." The officer's expression didn't change. "You crossed a restricted boundary and ignored multiple warnings from a standing royal guard. Step out now or we will escort you." The crowd gasped. A security escort? Was this really happening? Olivia's breath came out short and sharp. This wasn't just a small scolding. She was being removed, like a criminal. She turned desperately to her team. But they remained frozen, unwilling to challenge royal security. She had never felt this kind of humiliation before. The cameras were rolling, and she was about to be dragged out of Buckingham Palace. There was no escaping this. Swallowing the lump in her throat, she forced a tight, furious smile. Then, with every ounce of fake confidence she had left, she flipped her hair, lifted her chin, and stormed away. But no matter how much she tried to act unfazed, one thing was clear. She had just made the biggest mistake of her career. As Olivia Munro stormed away from Buckingham Palace, her hands clenched into fists. Her heart pounded with rage, humiliation, and disbelief. This wasn't supposed to happen. She had come here expecting a glamorous, Instagram-worthy moment. Instead, she had been publicly embarrassed, scolded like a child, and thrown out of one of the most prestigious locations in the world. And it was only going to get worse. Within minutes, the incident had hit social media. Videos of her defiant approach, the royal guard's thunderous warning, and her stunned reaction were being shared millions of times. Pop star Olivia Munro humiliated by royal guard. You won't believe what happened. Celebrity thinks she's above the rules, gets shut down at Buckingham Palace. The backlash was instant and merciless. Her comment sections flooded with criticism. This is why people hate entitled celebrities. She really thought she could walk up and touch a royal guard? This is the most satisfying thing I've seen all day. Respect to the guard. At first, Olivia tried to ignore the noise. She told herself it would blow over in a few days. But then the real damage began. Her biggest sponsor, a luxury fashion brand, pulled out of $1 million contract, citing misalignment with company values. A high-profile TV appearance was cancelled due to scheduling changes, but everyone knew why. Her PR team urged her to issue a formal apology, but Olivia refused. "I did nothing wrong," she snapped. But the world had already decided. A week later, Olivia's face appeared on the cover of gossip magazines, not as a rising star, but as a cautionary tale. The fall of Olivia Munro. When arrogance goes too far. Her reputation was shattered. For the first time in her career, her name wasn't trending for a hit song or a red carpet look. It was trending because of her failure. And the worst part? That royal guard never even looked at her again. While Olivia's world crumbled, he simply stood at his post, unwavering, unshaken. Because for him, duty came before everything. Do you think the celebrity deserved the humiliation? Or do you believe she should have been treated differently? Comment below. If you respect the royal guard's discipline, hit the like button to show support. Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories of bravery, duty, and honor.